My name is Elizabeth Rose. I'm known as Lizzy Rose. My profession is Australia's celebrity psychic. I was in Mount Gambier as a child. I was raised on a farm a fair bit, and I started reading the neighbours and the farmers' wives, and I remember from the age of 9 they'd bring in baskets of fruit and goats and things. It was a little bit like 13th century. It's ridiculous, but we had animals, and because my mother was so religious, we wouldn't take money, so they'd bring over baskets of food and cakes and breads, and just see if I can have 15 minutes with your daughter. So that was really interesting. I left home at 12. Very young age. I left home at 12. That's another story. But I did start professionally reading from 12 and actually had to leave the schools I was attending because it became too overwhelming for the students and the parents because they were all coming in for readings. So I've had a really interesting life. But again, when you're living it, you don't think, you just live it. It's not till you look back and you go, wow, I guess that was a little unusual, especially being a mum now and seeing my kids don't actually live like that. So a huge, interesting life. And yes, I feel that I was born to see and sense, and we all have different gifts. Some people can paint. I can't draw. I can't even sign my name the same. So many things I'm not good at, but I know what I see and sense. And I think if you have something that's, a gift in whatever way, share it and love it and appreciate it and learn from it. My first experience with my ability of being psychic was as young as about 4 and a half. And I recall at that age being in the womb. And I remember having dreams as a little child of literally being a baby in the womb and how that felt, and advising my mum in bits and pieces and saying I insisted that I'd been raced to hospital when I was a few days old, and I'd been in for 3 days. And I remember writing and being so very, very young and not being able to write properly, but being able to write down medication, yet not write a complete sentence like, the cat and the dog or something that age would be writing. But I wrote down lengthy 20 and 30 word medication lists that I was evidently prescribed at that age. So I didn't understand it. My mother certainly didn't confirm it. It wasn't until 15 years or so later, when I was 19, that it was confirmed, because she was Seventh-day Adventist, so she was very against everything that I seen. But I knew I'd been sick, and I knew as a little person that I'd been sick, and I can remember the gurgling and the sounds of womb, and that's incredible. Like, looking back at the time, I didn't think it was incredible as a kid, but looking back, that's amazing that we have the potential to tap into different realms, and we're not just in this moment right here and right now. I have this clear memory of going to school with my mum and walking down this side street and seeing this old lady pass us by, and I seen her big, black, beautiful, healthy dog with a red collar and lead, and his name was Jack, and he was really, really excited. And it wasn't until years later that we seen the lady again before she passed, and she said the dog that you seen had passed 17 years before that. The common methods to predicting somebody's future for me, and there are many different ways that one can do readings, but for me it would be a psychic reading, including divinatory tools. So psychic readings for myself can simply be with the querent or the questionnaire and looking at them and giving them information. Then as a clairvoyant, I would use tools. I work with 82 different divinatory tools, so everything from tarot to crystals to runes, rules and runes, jewellery, photographs. The list is quite, the I Ching, the list is quite endless. Tasseography, tea leaf reading, cartomancy, there's much. Tarot's been around for thousands and thousands of years, and really way back before cartomancy or simply playing cards, basic playing cards. And the original history, there's some people who will say that, look, it could be Italy, it could have been France, it could have been the Romans, it could have been, different ages, and there's still a lot of discrepancy in the sense of what century tarot or tarot is sort of created from and began. But I'd say certainly if you take it back to the kings and queens of England, it was used on court to counsel before great wars, whether somebody would go out and fight a battle or not would all be done with the seer, would be brought in, and tarot was a tool, as well as scribing. Now, if you want to talk about runes and the original, I guess, workings before tarot, before there was ink and there was paper, you're going back to Stone Age. So the simplest and most universal forms of divination started with runes, which were literally pebbles, stones found on the ground, and people would inscribe, certain letters or sigils or numbers or shapes, and then toss, even the cavemen, and they'd all dance around and they'd toss them on the ground, and however they fell, they would, there's our future, and off we go and hunt and gather, and it was really, really cool. So really, people don't realise, but that was a form of divination. Do we hunt this animal or this, this subject today? So runes go way back into that time, and then as they've progressed, they're very Norse, so they're very much equivalent to the Viking Age and the energy of Vikings. So if you look at the Norse mythology, runes very much are like tarot is, I guess, to the Italians, and astronomy is to the English. So it's quite interesting and exciting. Before I do a reading, there's the ritual first of preparation, I think, which we all have with regards to our body and ourself. And, I think it's very, very important before I consult a client, whether it be an out of base, I call it, or out of temple client, or whether it's in the temple, in my home, in my residence, that first one is physically clean. And I know that sounds a little cliche, but you've got to start with the basics of where do you start your ritual. And we have rituals every day when we wake up and we shower, we get dressed, we brush our teeth, we eat, we have rituals and patterns in motion, and I find it very important that that ritual is extra special on a day that I'm consulting. So from oils that I scent my body with, including cleaning the space, just like you clean your house, washing floors, sweeping, then setting the space specifically for the client that's coming in that you're about to see. So it's all about that preparatory energy with regards to, what you do prior to actually seeing someone. So then the ritual itself is the act of bringing the person in, and for me, a meditation. They're always smudged, whether it be by air or fire or oil or water. They're always cleansed in some regard. Shoes are removed. They're not to bring their shoes or the outside world into a sacred space. There's a 5 to 8, maybe 9-minute meditation, depending on the person who I'm reading for, and then the ritual going into channel of the reading. So I think it's very important, and I like to stress that you're not a 5-minute reader, and I don't believe any reader should be, look, I've got 30 minutes, I'll give you 10 minutes of my time. Yes, you can get a snippet reading, and that's not wrong, but again, the purer you are, the higher form of vibration you bring in, and the more accurate and sacred and high-powered and empowered the reading will be for both the querent and for the reader. I believe with regards to being psychic and the general population, if we look at all different countries and all different societies, that it's a part of our brain. It's literally our subconscious and our intuitive side of ourself, if you like, our gut feeling. A lot of guys particularly call it our gut feeling. Is inert within all of us. It's a part of us, even for atheists. I meet a lot of atheists, I bring them over and say, let's have a chat about things. Oh, I don't believe in anything. Well, did you have a gut feeling today? Did you feel, where did it come from, your gut, your heart, or your head? So that to me is intuitiveness, and that is a sense that we all have, that we're all born with, because we all have that part of the brain. It's there, it's science that agrees now that it's there. I teach psychic development classes though, and in saying that, I will allow someone about 12 to 13 weeks, and if I see that there's absolutely nothing going on more than what they can do at that time, then there's no point in them paying money, energy and time to continue. So I think that also has to be measured by anybody who's teaching psychic ability and meditation, that if you're going to pay a lot of money for a course, you want to see some results. And it's not that they can't progress to a higher level, but maybe they don't want to. There's also a lot of people that come to me that say, I see this, particularly children and teenagers. I see this and I feel this and I sense this, but I don't want to. Make it stop. So there's also the other side of shutting things down. But yes, I believe everybody's born intuitive and can develop to different degrees. but those degrees are different. You know, there's certainly a lot of past life energy that comes up in readings as well. I'll see a lot of people that I resonate with, that I've had past lives with, you know, 1 in 100 maybe, 1 in 200, but yeah, I know that I've been with them before in some way, in some form. So it's quite beautiful. I will say, to add to that, there's people, because a lot of people say, well, has everybody had a past life? You know, has everybody been here before? I noticed just a few that haven't, and you'll find they're very usually driven, corporate, love the corporate world, but just they seem to fall into the corporate world. It's very much about money and career and establishing things and property and assets and just getting on with things. And not that that's a bad thing, you know, money is energy, and it's a good form, and it's great to be working and creative in that manner. But there's no need for them in perhaps an early life, if they've only had one life, or this is their first life or second, to actually, they feel, and I seem to find that pattern over the last 30 years, that they feel that they don't need to consult a psychic or spiritualist that much because they just don't look for it yet. So it is interesting, but yeah, there's so many different beautiful people that I've met, definitely thousands and thousands. They're gorgeous. I'd say why people come to me for readings, for psychic and clairvoyant readings. Number one would have to be love, universally, which is really, really sweet. You know, they it can be sweet, it can be the other side, like the good side is, you know, we want to find love, or is this male or female for me, and, you know, will we be together ever and ever? And the other side is, I really want to break them up so I can have him or her. Not really good. But you sadly, I think a lot of people think that they can go see a psychic, and if they desire XYZ over there in the corner, that they'll zap them on the head and they can have them, you know, and that's really not a good thing. And I think that needs to, again, when you're a psychic and when you're doing readings, you're also a counsellor, and you have to take it very, very seriously, even if it is just, you know, show me the future in the next 3 weeks of my life, and it's all light and fairy and fluffy and cute. It's very, very serious. People will change their life on what a psychic or clairvoyant or medium has advised them. They will sell their home. They will leave the husband. They will spend $50,000 tomorrow on investing in something if you say that that's going to work for them. So you have a great responsibility as a reader, and you must, I think, take that into every reading, however small or lengthy, however, whether it's a high level or a short level, and that is in regards to the tools that are used and the level you get to in a reading. But love is certainly up there. Secondly to that, yeah, a lot of people that are lost. I sadly see a lot of mental illness, a lot of drugs, a lot of things that are extreme, you know, a lot of sadness, a lot of neglect, a lot of abuse, a lot of trauma. And again, as well as ringing people like Lifeline and the wonderful people that work so hard to help people, there's also an energy in the sense of different people, perhaps family members also, that bring these people in to consult a psychic and a clairvoyant. Third would be wealth creation and career, and not as much as what people think. I think a lot of people think that, you know, yes, career, you know, which job should I take and what's my best direction? But with regards to spells for money, there's not as many as what people think that there would be. Fourth there, just thinking here, because family and children and having babies, there's quite different sort of branches of that. So, you know, certainly mums that will come in who can't have children, and they will want to know about the children. How do I, you know, become pregnant if I'm unable to, and they're trying everything possible, IVF and things like that. So health is a big issue with regards to coming to a psychic as well. So there's, you know, the common things that we all deal with, whether we see a psychic or not, our love life, our health, our money, you know, but I guess what you would say to a counsellor, and I think again that's the difference, that when you go to see a counsellor, and there's great counsellors, I respect counsellors and psychologists greatly, but it's often you are asked a question and you tell them everything that's going on with you, and then at the end you get a little bit of direction or some pamphlets. And I see that a lot, and I'm not dishing that world, because there's some great counsellors again, and they're very, very helpful. But the psychic, it's a role reversal. You know, the querent comes in and sits there, and it's up to the psychic to tell the whole story of the person. and then come to the, arrangement of what's best for them in whatever line of topic that they've come in for, and then give that guidance from there. So there's a great deal of responsibility even in light questions. If we think about witchcraft, it's just really, really cool and wonderful. And I guess I was a witch from a child, but there was no label. Nobody told me I was a witch. Nobody said, well, that's, who you are or what you are. For years, until I was about 19, as in the family and my mother, because she was Seventh-day Adventist. But I was lucky enough in Mount Gambier, South Australia, in a small country town, to at the same time be run and raised by a Seventh-day Adventist strict mother, to also be on a farm, on the Kentish's farm. They were potato farmers, and I believe they still are. And from the age of 9, I was introduced to a coven. So I had this extreme, which mother didn't know, for about a year and a half. She thought I was shearing sheep. So this extreme life of 7 days, strict, very, very strict religion, to off we go weekly and meet these elders. And I learned about the wisecraft for 3 years. I initiated at the age of 12. I became a High Priestess at the age of 12, which is reasonably rare. And these days, not so much, but certainly back then, well, where I was anyway, I didn't know of any other kids that were, in my coven, and the youngest lady was 57 and our oldest was 97 when I left. So it was very interesting for a little girl to be involved with, and probably would be deemed in this society as a little bit strange and a bit creepy and cultish, or, that question of, is there anything sexual going on? Because you've got adults, mature, elderly adults with a young girl. But it wasn't like that at all. It was beautiful. And the word witch, what I learnt, is wicce, W-I-C-C-E. So the word itself just means wise one. So it doesn't mean black or white or boy or girl. It's not negative, it's not nasty, it's not black. It's a wise person. So a cunning person, which is a wise person. It's not cunning as in nasty or evil. So witchcraft for me was part of using herbs and nature and trees and animals and the natural spirits and everything that's around me, and learning how to make potions, to heal yourself, to empower yourself in a beautiful sense, not to do anything negative to anyone. So how do you become a witch? I was lucky enough to have these beautiful people on this farm who all lived there and all worked the farm, and it was a purely healthy environment. It was beautiful. They were very, very supportive and loving, and weekly practice and dedication was given to me for 3 years until I graduated and was given that title of High Priestess. These days, and I like to call myself an eclectic witch, and you've got these two forms. You've got traditional witchcraft or eclectic witchcraft. And traditional is that you've come from a line of witches, and whether you're born by blood into that line or whether you've joined and been applied and then joined, been accepted, and you form that tradition and you follow very strictly that traditional view of that particular path, Alexandrian, Gardnerian, Dianic. There's a lot of different traditions. With eclectic witchcraft, which I chose as a young child and still live by, is a little bit of everything. And that's what I love, because I can go anywhere and I can mix with, Buddhists or Hindus or Taoists or, Egyptian mythology or Greek, or you can just take from everywhere and learn as much as you can. And we never stop learning. Nobody ever knows everything. And, I think that's very important, that you keep taking and learning and growing. So witchcraft is that amazing wisdom. As far as these days, how do you become a witch? If people want to know, contact your nearest New Age bookstore or shop or alternative shop. Go online. Do you know who to trust or what to trust where? There's great people out there, but of course there's people preying on people in every world. So one has to be careful. But yes, you go along to a coven or group. There's online covens or in-person covens or both. And you learn with that priestess or priest, and ideally they should be a high priestess or high priest, in my opinion, before they teach. And you go through degrees, and first, second, third degree and so on. I'm a 17th degree high priestess, which means I've done 17 years of formal training, not all in a row. But the first 3 were to keep learning, and I can keep going. And again, in some traditions there's only 3. In some there's 55, in the Golden Dawn there's hundreds. It depends again what interests you and what you're sort of led to. But being a witch, it's being a wise person and continually learning as you go through those years of degrees. I currently have a coven in Melbourne, the Owl Coven, and have students going through their first degree at the moment, their year and a day of training. Then they go through initiation and they can choose whether they continue to do the second year and so on, or just stay at that level. I include again that they learn elsewhere when they're initiated, when that course and a coven is a course, but it's equally a coven, and a course, like anywhere where we go to learn and train. Yes, you commit and you go to school and you learn and you do all your practical, your theory. There's a lot of homework I give my students, but a coven is also a family, and I think that's what's lovely about witchcraft. You become a family and you really do support your brothers and sisters and have great respect. So witchcraft is amazing, it's wonderful, and it's not bad or evil. Yes, we work with dark as well as light, but dark isn't, nasty. I don't introduce the demons that I meet with the psychic realm to my witches, because that's not what it's about for them. Witchcraft is not demonic energy. I love a good skeptic. I think it's great because we're not, as a witch and as a high priestess of a coven, I teach my students to be open and respectful of all beliefs and all opinions. So skeptics and skepticism is healthy to me. So yes, there's been skeptics I've read since I was a baby. I'm 44 now. I started reading at 9 and professionally at 12. So yes, over the decades as time has changed, there's been different degrees of skepticism that I've seen. Nothing too nasty or negative, and I think it's how you handle it. And I always find it's intriguing to ask a skeptic why they feel that way. What's their experience? Because their experience is valid, and I think it's interesting. If we all believed everything that somebody said, then we'd be pretty boring, and